Dave, I always like to start off this portion of the show by having our guest host tell us a bit of their story, their backstory in particular. Our theme today is Follow Your Bliss, and it came about because as you were talking to me during our pre-interview, it seemed like you had a pretty circuitous path through life so far, but it's been for the best. And I was wondering if you could maybe retrace some of those steps for us and give us an idea about, where you came from and how you got to where you're at now.
Well, when I was a boy, we didn't have the internet, and then the internet happened. I grew up with computers with a Commodore 64. I knew how to program really terrible things in BASIC, which I kind of remember. I still have a Commodore, actually. I keep meaning to set it up. Oh, yeah. This guy gave it in the box with like all these games and stuff. But growing up, with Nintendo and like video games, it was all like new, and it wasn't so immersive today where you could spend 60 hours playing Metal Gear Solid 5 and, be 13% done. But the games were like, hour, 2 hours, unless it's like Ninja Gaiden or whatever. But I just really got into games, but also had enough time to then be creative with it in some way with like basic programming and stuff. And I was really little. I was probably like 8 or 9. And then I remember getting like my first computer and like other computer with a Windows 95 and and just kind of learning that and going to school, middle school and high school where computers were like terrible computers. Mine wasn't good or anything, but I remember like hitting it like
the lines on it, like
the big
did your first computers at school have the tracking dial on the front? Did you ever have one of those? I actually had a computer at my school that had a tracking dial for the monitor.
Whoa.
Kid you not.
Absolutely. Mine at home did. I
always thought that was so weird. I mean, I think it's super weird now, but then it was like, just like television.
Like tuning in
or the VCR or something.
I was so stupid that I had a big giant CRT monitor and it broke, and I took it apart having no idea how I could just die at any second with like a metal screwdriver trying to fix the tracking.
Was it plugged in?
It was it was on, because how was I going to fix it if I could?
Right, because you couldn't see.
The tracking thing didn't work, so I had to go in the screwdriver with this thing all torn apart. I'm like 11, about to be fried.
Oh my god!
And I did that on like a regular basis. And so it's kind of making do, just fixing stuff, clunking, Frankensteining stuff together, putting this slow RAM into this faster thing and not having any idea of like, the theory that your computer is only as fast as its slowest part. So you could put in like 32 gigs of slow memory or 16 gigs of faster memory, and the 16 gigs will be much better than the more.
That's like the principle behind why Apple specs often look a little behind some of the more cutting edge stuff, but it's like together it all kind of tends to work a little bit better, a little smoother.
At least for the one round of charger ports. There's a great video of
and then there's also only one thing that you can do with the computer at a time because there's only one USB port now.
Yeah, that's a little annoying. Isn't it the power button too?
Or there's no USB or whatever it is.
I saw that video. It's like the next Apple will have no ports in it. Good luck with that.
And then they're like, and when you get it, you're gonna have to buy a new charger because in the middle of this video we changed the type of charger that it takes.
Yeah, that was great. My friend, or one of my clients, hates Apple, and I actually saved all of his data using Apple. I love data recovery. I especially love data recovery on Apples for some reason. I don't know. I get a kick out of it. I think because like you could, like I've lost data before, and I'm super anal about backing up everything. And photos is very important to me, to no one else. My dumb stuff. I recorded music, and 6 months of music, I spilled coffee on it and stuff, and I found that drive recently. And I'm like, oh my God, that was so important. I plugged it in. I was able to get the data within like seconds. Like I was not able to get the data, I don't know, back in 2008, which is not even that long ago. But the tools I had today, I was able to get it. Oh man, it was awful. It was like so not what I thought. Like I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for.
This is going to be amazing. Like I'm going to recover something like precious. And then you're like, oh, never mind. It's just kind of embarrassing.
I'm so glad that we re-recorded it. It was terrible. But But yeah, I mean, this one guy, his daughter passed away, and all of her writings and stuff, her computer crashed, and I was able to get everything for this guy. And the gratitude he showed, like, I'll spend hours, and like I'm not even charging like what I would charge normally. I just like getting it because of the look on their face when you like recover some precious thing, like. And that's kind of about what we were talking about with client relationships. Like if you're like saving the day for somebody, like saving like kind of like being a hero in some respect. So or a doctor or something like that, and that kind of feels good as a kind of a dummy to be considered like something as important as that. It's kind of cool. So. Yeah, so I do like doing the data recovery, and most of the time, as long as the drive's not like clicking, but there's a great company called Fat Guy, Bald Guy out in California. I love the name, and immediately was like, these guys are cool. They do data recovery. They have a clean room, a laboratory. Like,
oh, nice.
When you rebuild the drives, there can't be any like dust, or you have to wear all like full. It's crazy, and they do flat rates, and they only charge you if they get the data. So I find that to be very cool in the case that you have financial data that need to be recovered. And actually, one other interesting side note, we had a client that had lost data, and we resell Carbonite. And that does a cloud backup for disaster recovery. You can have all these backups, and there's a fire. What's that going to do? So they do. I'm sure you're familiar. They do the cloud backup. Well, we were able to recover this QuickBooks file and a couple different versions days before and stuff. And by doing that, the accountant was like kind of annoyed. It's like, why are all these versions? But then the accountant looked into it, discovered that one of the employees there stole $100,000 from the company.
What?
And because we accidentally like helped and figured out and got multiple versions, more than he wanted, he was kind of like, I got all these versions. But actually was able to pinpoint and see where all this money was going. It was in the newspaper. The lady went to jail. She worked there for like 12 years and was like paying herself and covering her tracks. And it was like, it was just crazy accidentally like helping them with that. And
that's how you make enemies in the community.
Yeah, well, luckily,
and friends.
Part of me, I was like glad that they didn't mention our name in the paper. You know what I mean? But I was like, that would have been cool. We helped them. But yeah, it was just seeing one of our clients getting ripped off like that. It just
that's no fun.
Upset me. You know what I mean? Like made me mad. So we wanted to do everything we could to help this guy. He's one of our favorite guys. And So basically, I learned how to do computers on my own, and I left high school when I was like 15 and stayed at home and infected the school library. I think this is the statute of limitations is passed on this now. I'm very old. I'm like 32 or something. So, so back when I was hacking using kiddie programs like Sub 7, we would infect computers and control them when I was at home. I'd talk to my friends and stuff.
So you dropped out of high school to hang out at home and work on computers?
And talk to them at high school.
That's
and I would get a ride to the school and then take the bus home to their house like for a year after I left until they figured out like, what are you doing? You don't even go here anymore. But it was much easier than getting a ride all the way to their house. I would just get a ride. The school is only like 4 minutes away. And so I did that for a while and got my GED. I'm not a test taker. I would be writing songs in school. I had a great time in high school, but I was just like not interested in anything. I had to learn there. Christopher Columbus after the 100th times. It's like whatever.
When did building websites become a passion of yours?
That was I was at 15. My friend Petey introduced me to GeoCities. And
nice.
They had
a lot of good memories with GeoCities.
Yeah.
Well,
flying toasters.
Yeah, kind of good memories.
Yeah.
Nostalgic memories, we'll say.
Yeah, and there's we were speaking in the pre-interview about there's a GeoCities archive. I'll have to send you the link. Someone like archived all the old ones, and I really want to find my old terrible band site. We had dripping blood and like just the dumbest stuff. But at the time, it was like, here's our website. And it was cjb.net because I didn't want to pay for .com.
Dude, and people loved it, too. They're like, whoa,
look at this. Dude, a WAV file. It's going to take forever to download this, and let's do it. But yeah, I remember it being sorry, was that me?
No, I just got a fly flew into my eyeball.
Oh man. Yeah, I hate when flies enter the office. It's like
Yeah.
I had a cricket in here. It was driving
I
me
feel like
crazy.
I feel like the episode of Breaking Bad right now where the flies in the lab. Did you see? Are you a fan of Breaking Bad?
Oh yes, I
Okay,
love
so
blue
you
math.
know the episode where there's the fly in
Yeah.
in the lab and he like
Yeah.
almost kills himself trying to kill the fly. That's how I
Yeah.
feel right now. I've been chasing this fly for like 2 days, and of course, right in the middle of the interview, it's gonna fly into my eyeball and be like, "Hey, still here."
Or in your mouth.
Yeah.
Are you gonna hear when you're editing like?
Oh, probably. It's probably gonna drive me crazy.
I haven't heard it. I had to deal with that once with a video with this fly sound.
So back
But-
to websites. You started building. So you started building websites when you were 15.
Yeah, 97, 98, 97, I think. I was 18 when 2001. I was 18, so obviously not a math major. Got like simple math is confusing me right now, so I'm thinking about other things instantly. It's like I can't even take tests. But yeah, so I remember it being like kind of like WordPress has the content editor and then the code editor. I remember being able to switch back and forth. I don't know if I'm correct in that, but that's how I learned code. And back then, it was easy to learn source code by looking at the code. It made sense. It was very simple tables, and it just was easier to manipulate. And this is before Firebug or developer tools, source viewer,
Inspect element or anything like that.
Yeah, so you would just open up View Source in Notepad and using Netscape Navigator or whatever, and just kind of seeing that laid out. And it was a great time because I feel like if that were me today, I would be like, oh no, this is too much. Like seeing all the meta og data and like all these Google Analytics script or something, it would just be like too much, I think, without some serious training. So when I learned, it was much easier to understand, and then just kept doing it, making sites for friends, bands. Always in a band, always had like something to make, which is key to the whole thing because they need practice. And made a bunch of HTML sites, and then I had like a whole bunch when we opened the first site. And this is before I heard about WordPress, but I thought it was like for templates and like stuff for not custom. I didn't even realize the potential. And this is probably in 2009. We opened in 2010. So like 2009, I was still doing HTML, and then right in 2010, right after I put our ugly HTML site up, found about WordPress, and I'm like, all right, I'll try this stupid thing. And then I realized, oh my God, this is the way to go. And the time saving and the way to automate things and having fun with it. It's not a chore. Oh man. And then being able to give clients the control of the site afterwards, made it just so much more enjoyable for them. Then they could take the site because, it's definitely more fulfilling when you make a site for a client and they just take it and they run with it and they add content. And you'd be surprised some of the clients that will and some won't. One of a site I donated for the Frenchtown, the borough here, the town. I donated a website for the town and the police as well. And the chief of police of all people, he's like adding content. He's like,
this is great.
Yeah, and out of all the people, he's a good guy. I didn't think of anyone. He would have been the one that would have taken it, so strongly. So yeah, it's cool to see that. So. Having the tools now that we have today makes it a lot easier to work with and stuff. So especially with Divi. Divi's made things a lot more enjoyable and being able to come up with stuff very quickly and beautifully. And I got to commend Elegant Themes for their products over the years because always been a fan. Always end up coming back. And ever since Divi, I've just exclusively loved using that. And like I'll try a different theme or something. And I'm actually looking forward to trying the builder plugin with some random theme. Just to see. But I just keep end up using the Divi theme because I just like it, and I know it in and out. And the code, underneath the hood, is just always very clean and very easy to understand and stuff because. PHP is one of those things. If you make one wrong entry, one wrong keystroke, nothing works. It's like that. Yeah. So it's like I'm very anal with backing up. I'll make dates, where I'll update, even just a style sheet. And if I'm going to step away for 20 minutes, I'll save with the date, and the time of that version, just in case I come back and like start going into something and break something. I just go back to that, because once you do that enough, especially if you're not sure what you're fixing yet or how to fix it the right way, the best way, and you want to try some things, having those backups are very, very important. So,
well, now that we kind of have a a timeline, so to speak, or some context from where you were kind of way before you even ever thought you'd be doing whatever it is you're doing now to running your company, RiverNet Computers, and all the things that you do there, building websites, setting up networks, doing support service and physical repairs. I think this might be a good time to sort of contextualize the topic of following your bliss. And I guess I want to make sure what I mean by that is, when I say follow your bliss, I'm actually kind of just making a reference to one of my favorite writers is Joseph Campbell. And what that idea or philosophy means is basically just letting your curiosity, letting the things that make you passionate kind of be your guide, particularly in what you choose to learn or pursue with the time that you have available to yourself. I mean, I don't want to suggest that people should drop whatever it is they're doing. We all have to pay our bills. We all have to have certain practical restraints on our life, and I'm not suggesting people blow those off. But there's definitely something to be said for taking a modicum of risk or just dedicating a certain set amount of time to pursuing things that you're passionate about, things that you're curious about, things that you want to learn more about just for the sake of those things, and letting those sort of evolve. One of my personal observations, this is something I've noticed in my life and in the lives of others who take this sort of approach, is that the end result tends to be that a lifestyle or a life rhythm emerges over time that's sort of uniquely suited to that person. And so whatever they end up doing with these passion projects or these passion pursuits becomes something that it turns into something that they're sort of uniquely suited for. And they tend to thrive in that environment, whatever it is. And I can't help but look at you in your office, and it's just like very you from what I've got to know. And the way that you describe your days, it's very much like this is the environment that you were meant to thrive in. High school or the traditional path that we all kind of have to start in, that didn't seem to suit you very well. I know it never really suited me that well.
Yeah.
But following these passions for you, it was like, goofy hacking and music and all these other things. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you have this sort of technical toolbox that you can start to tap into. And that becomes something that has some potential, and you can follow that trail. So I guess what I'm wondering is, I've just kind of talked about how these are my observations. Have you noticed that sort of thing has happened in your life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I didn't really even start to respect or enjoy learning until after I left high school for whatever reason. And having everything, on the internet, just like I love reading about stuff. When I was in high school, I just wanted to goof around and play music and do whatever. And then when I left, I had all this time and like learning stuff, and like it was this whole new world with like ICQ and Merc, IRC, and like chatting these weird people about, like I remember when like 9/11 happened, and like I have logs of our IRC on that day of this like hacking chat room thing that I used to be a part of called TNT. And I found the logs of like that, just seeing it like play out, and just like the stuff we talk about is just ridiculous. And the whole learning experience. We used to run a site that had like so much traffic and made no money. It was the hackers.com, HAQERZ. And it was just like stupid tools and stuff. But like the whole learning experience, getting viruses, like, oh, what is it? Oh God, what did I just do? Just destroying my whole computer. And that's how I learned, how to fix it, how to recover from that, like purposely giving myself viruses. And now come to respect those things and be able to help people that get like ripped off by like these, because what we were doing back then, it was way before people would make money from viruses. It was just like pranks or whatever, or stupid stuff. And
it's more playful than anything, even if it was, maybe unfortunate for some people.
Yeah, and actually, some people I know created this thing we called VicNet, which was before botnet, which was where infecting thousands of computers to then all simultaneously run a certain task or target, which is what a botnet is. Yeah. And this is like he coined the term VicNet. This guy from Canada. And it was just like crazy. No idea what we're doing. No idea the risk involved. Like just like, oh, whoops. Like
I have a friend who logged into his school library or into his school administrator's accounts from home, and and like changed a grade just because he
Like war games.
Yeah, exactly. But he actually did it, and he did it because he was going to get grounded or something, and he didn't want to like not be able to go on a trip.
Much easier.
Right. He got. I mean, like you were saying, you guys had no idea. He just thought it was something funny to do, and it was like a quick fix to a problem he had. All of a sudden, like 2 weeks later, like he's got law enforcement at his door, and they're, he can't go on planes with computers now or something weird like that. Like
or liquid.
Yeah. or liquid over
What a
4
nightmare.
ounces. Yeah. So he has all these weird restrictions on him now because he was in the kind of the same thing where it's like, I just want to learn, I want to play, and it kind of burned him. But not to say that you guys shouldn't learn and play.
No, hopefully he'll get a job. Yeah, that's like
well, now he's doing very well. Now he's doing very well. He wrote some software for a fast food company, and he's very well off.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you got to like when you see those types of people, work. You can nurture. Like I know some kids these days. When you see it, you see it. My nephew, like I always want to introduce computers to him, but in a way that was going to be fun and for him to create, and not be like, you better learn computers, where he's going to be like quarterback or something instead, like the opposite, So I'd be like, here you go. But also in a way, I mean, he's just turned 11. He's got a YouTube channel. He's editing videos.
Oh, nice.
Like I got him like a video editing software. He knows it better than me now. And it's just great because he's creating, he's making movies. He's got like all these movies. And it's just so cool to see somebody take that and see the love that I had when I was younger and be the same way. Because, there's so many distractions these days with, like I was saying, like immersive video games. It's not like, you play Mario 3 and you're like, all right, cool, that was cool for an hour. Now it's like this, you're
World of Warcraft and you're like, whatever. And you're,
it's like a commitment, or my vice was Grand Theft Auto 5. And seeing how much time I spent playing that stupid game, which was such a good game. But my girlfriend hated it. My fiance, she hated that game. I made her play it, though, and these like 13-year-old kids are like talking smack. Actually, you mentioned that in the last episode. I started laughing. That's the worst feeling.
Well, I think something that's super cool about, like, whether it's, a new generation learning YouTube or what you did or, what any of us has done, where we just take something that is fun for its own sake and we pursue it until, those skills become valuable. And what I think is so cool about that kind of mode of living or mode of pursuit is that whatever you end up doing with those skills, it brings with it a sense of playfulness, a sense of purpose, a sense of like wonder and curiosity. Whereas like if you're just doing what you're supposed to be doing, you don't really have that. You don't really have those things that come along with that. You're just, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So there's maybe a sense of security in that, maybe a sense of like comfort.
I can't do that. As soon as I'm told to do that, I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
I'm going to do the opposite, for better or for worse. I just don't
So I think that's just really, really interesting. And I would really encourage people to maybe find something that they're passionate about, something that they're curious in, and just sort of make some time for that.
There's a great book I'll recommend from one of my favorite customers. She's an author, Elizabeth Gilbert, and she just put out a book called Big Magic: Creative Living Beyond Fear. And it's like a manifesto, and it applies to all sorts of creative minds. And she's an author, but this book transcends, like, it goes into just everything that we're just discussing about, where she has this great story about when she's about to embark on something creative, it's like a car ride, and it's her creativity and fear. And she says, fear sits in the back seat, and fear will not touch the radio. You can come along on the ride, fear, but you are not to touch your radio. You're not to open the windows, and above all, you are never to drive. But you are welcome to be here because you can't have one without the other. It's So her book is just incredible, and I highly suggest anyone that's interested in the creative realm to check it out and give it a read. It's very good. But yeah, the whole process, I find that having limitations to things are also kind of good. Like I have a guitar with maybe it'll have 3 strings on it, and the things you'll come up with that instead of a full 6 strings or whatever. It's kind of interesting and different, or different tuning, or working with email newsletters where you have to kind of pretend it's 1998 again.
Right, because it's just
old school HTML,
yeah.
and it's a challenge, and it's fun though in a way. But it's like, oh god, you can't do box shadow or like curved corners or border radius. You have to pretend it's old school days and creating it 600 pixels wide. So I find that to be a kind of way to be creative, like out of necessity from the limitations you have. So I find that to be a lot of fun in a way to come up with some new ideas and new things, and yeah, I kind of just lived my life that way. Me and my brother were partners. I always tell the old ladies that come in, he's the smart one, I'm the cute one, but yeah, we get along great, and he knows his stuff, man. He does all the stuff. He's more of the scientist, where if he has a 1 where a 0 is supposed to be or whatever, that stuff won't work. Where I like to have more abstract, where I like to have, there's no right answer kind of thing. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it could be many things. So I find that to be comforting. And, for like when I draw, I'm not going to draw like a basket of fruit. I'm going to draw like a basket of aliens or something that doesn't exist. Because then you can't ever mess up because there's no right answer, So my fruit doesn't look good, but I can draw an alien.
So before we interviewed, in one of our conversations beforehand, I asked you to maybe create a list or gather up some things that have contributed to you embracing this idea of following your passions and curiosity. You just named the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, whose website you created, by the way.
Yes.
I encourage everybody to check it out. It's really nice. It's made with Divi. It's elizabethgilbert.com. Really
type Big Magic somewhere on the page for a little surprise. If you click on an empty part of the screen, just type in Big Magic.
It's fun. You guys will like it. So besides that book, which again I also recommend people check out because I plan to do it as well. Are there other things that you came across that influenced you in this direction? I mean, I know you probably you seem to just be that kind of person who like naturally rebels against the traditional path, which is cool. I think I'm a little bit like that myself. But in my own life, I can definitely like find sort of, I guess, breaking points where I broke off because of a specific influence of a path that I was on. Do you have anything like that you maybe listed or thought of that?
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely my parents are awesome, and my brothers, 2 biggest influences, because I was like, hey, do I have to go to school next year? My parents were like, no. I'm like, really? Oh my God, that was so easy. But I was like, oh my God. My brothers are like, you better work. Don't be sitting around being lazy. And I immediately got I was 15, just turned 16 or something, like $10 an hour cash painting. I was like, oh my God, mad money, I'm making it rain. And nothing to spend it on. And just having them being so awesome was the big, especially now today with my brother. I have 2 older brothers, and being partners with him, it's just we vibe off each other, and he knows the right way to do things. He wouldn't have opened up that monitor and started tinkering with the screwdriver. I did. But I'm like out of the box kind of idea, and we kind of come together where like I'll suggest something maybe he didn't think of, or he'll tell me, Dave, don't put the outlet and don't put the fork in the outlet kind of thing, like something, or just stupid stuff like taking the battery out before you open the laptop, before you start, make sure the battery's out, or when you unplug the desktop, hold the power to drain the capacitor, make sure there's no power in there. Safety first, everyone. So there's lots of things that like I didn't even know that that I learned from him, and vice versa, and we make a really good team. And just I think another thing, once I realized that I know a lot and I absolutely know nothing at all, and I think that's important to remember, because
it's like keeping both of those in your head at the same time.
Yeah,
it's like, yes, I have a lot of stuff that I came across or that I've experienced or learned, but it's like the more you learn, the more you know that you don't know that much at all.
All I know is that I don't know.
Yeah,
and I love that, because I've seen where some computer people are like socially inept, or they think they know everything, and it's like you can't learn then. And I love like not knowing, or SEO is going to change drastically next year, or earlier this year from. I like the whole thing, and everything is just changing so rapidly and keeping up with the pace, and also, Elegant Themes blog, which I'm a huge fan of.
Yes.
Yes. There's just Smashing Magazine. I love reading Smashing Magazine. That inspires me. Their books are just beautifully printed, and I fill my walls up with art and listen to music, and also the clients, the relationships. We're lucky that I can turn away people that might not be, fulfilling in some way, or maybe they're weird or wacky or they stink or something. But being able to say this guy is awesome, he inspires me, and or Elizabeth, who is like so wonderful to work with, and actually it was funny, last year her last book I debuted at New York Times bestseller. I did about 5 author websites last year, and so she was on best fiction, and then his book came out, and he was on the bestseller list at the same exact time, same week, for nonfiction, I think it was. But they were both on 2 separate lists of the top 10. And then her new book, we worked on really hard to promote it and everything. That debuted at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. So just like seeing these things, and I run a website called We Are Change. My friend Luke, he does everything. That's a Divi site. wearechange.org, and that gets so much traffic, unbelievable. I have a dedicated server just for his site, and unbelievable. And having that is a lot of fun because I've never had a site get so much traffic. And he's had the site for a while, and he confronts politicians and stuff, and definitely check him out. He's a journalist. And so I kind of run the behind the scenes thing for him and all the labor of love. He's a good friend of mine, and it's just a fun project to be able to have a site that's getting hundreds of thousands of hits.
Yeah.
And
so these are just things that because it's like you find it fascinating and fun, and you're working on these projects, and so it sort of becomes self-feeding. Like the more you do, the more work you get because people see it. The more work you get, the more interesting problems you discover, and you have to kind of get to the bottom of, and then all of a sudden you've got a bigger portfolio. And so I think I guess that's one of the things I want to leave people with. Thoughts I want to leave people with is just the idea that when you start going down this path, when you start feeding that curiosity, that passion, that interest, it sort of starts to self-perpetuate, and it can really snowball into something awesome, but it does take those like first steps, like for you, you've been operating in this mode for quite a while. You've been operating in this mode probably for as long as you can remember. And I think it sounds like a big breaking point for you from the traditional path, so to speak, was that moment where you said, I don't even want to do this last year of high school. I'm going to go learn about computers. I think for me, it was I graduated high school and I thought, I'm not going to go run track somewhere, run cross country somewhere on a scholarship. I'm going to go learn how to make movies. And so I went and did film school.
Nice.
Or a film internship rather. And so I want to really leave people with, maybe, I guess, since we both kind of spoke to this topic, want to leave people with, I guess, our best suggestion or our suggestion or our encouragement for the most frictionless way for someone to start following their bliss.
Well, when you first meet somebody, be as nice as possible, and then treat them exactly as they treat you after that. Just look at this world. We got space computers and stuff in our hands and stuff. And the whole industry, it's like, it's all computers in the future. And there's so much work. There's so much work that there could be 3 other RiverNet computers in town here and we'd all be fine. Because there's so much stuff. And I
tell that to people all the time about Divi. I'm like, get involved in Divi because you're never going to run out of work. Ever.
Ever.
Even if it's just working with people inside the immediate Divi community, there's over 300,000 people there. Like, you're never going to run out of work.
Never. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I was glad about my nephew picking up video editing and just, using a computer for creativity. Because it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're good at cooking, there's something that, but maybe you don't want to open up a restaurant or whatever, but maybe you can talk about, Cake Boss blog or something. I don't know.
Sure, Make
a blog about it or and there's ways to make money and if it's using a computer and until the robots take over and start eating people in the streets, I think we'll be making Divi sites until then. So,
And, well, that's a good note. And I wanted to say that, from my perspective, and I think you're kind of saying this too in a way, is that, if you want to have an avenue for pursuing something that you're just really interested in for its own sake, pick a side project. Just don't throw caution to the wind necessarily and leave whatever it is you're doing if you're not ready for that, or if you have responsibility, if you have a family you have to support. But But pick a side project. Just spend 5 hours a week doing something that you
Make
really
a fake band.
Yeah, that you really love, that you're really crazy about. And these side projects, just like we've talked about, if you're doing it and you're doing it passionately and you're learning about it and you're trying to become better at it, these things have a way of snowballing. And, it's something I've seen with the guests over and over again on the show is a lot of them, they kind of intended to be Divi specialists, but at the same time, they also were just at first kind of interested in WordPress, thought, what's this thing? I could probably do this. And they let their curiosity for, how does this work? Well, I should probably go check out the PHP template file. Or how does this work? I should probably learn how CSS functions. And they just kept digging long enough to all of a sudden they're like, well, I may not be an expert, but I'm definitely dangerous enough to make a go at this. And that's where it started for them, or that's where the new chapter started for them. So I would just encourage everybody, if you're fascinated with anything in this world of web design, of WordPress, of Divi, just dive in. Spend a little bit of time as often as possible until it turns into something.
It is possible to do something that you love. So if you're sitting somewhere and you're looking around, you're like, I hate this place I'm in. I love this podcast, but I hate this job. Pick it up because you could do it at home. It's fun. It's awesome. There's no shortage of work, and Divi makes it so much easier and enjoyable compared to pre-Divi.
Yeah.
PD and AD.
Well, we're officially at like an hour and a half on the recording. I know I'm gonna have to edit this down. So we got tons of content for this show. We're gonna have to sign off. Dave, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
Divi
you very
Nation.
much.
I really appreciate it. Oh,
thank you.
Oh, we gotta do it over again. I'm just kidding.
I forgot to hit record.
We said it at the same time. All right, see you, man. Don't forget, if you're watching this video on YouTube or Facebook, take a moment to subscribe, follow, like, and/or share.